The air tastes of coal and iron. Across the Thames, smoke rises from 1,000 chimneys, merging into a single grey canopy that stretches as far as the eye can see. Below, the city hums with motion. Carts roll over cobblestones. Cranes swing iron girders into place. Hammers echo from construction sites that seem to multiply overnight. This is London in the 1800s, a city in constant transformation, tearing down its past and rebuilding itself faster than any generation before could have imagined. Every decade brings new streets, new structures, new systems. The city does not rest. It expands, adapts, and reinvents itself, driven by forces that will reshape not only Britain, but the very idea of what a city could become. As the 19th century begins, London still carries the physical outline of its medieval origins. The old city of London, contained within ancient boundaries, remains dense and labyrinthine. Streets twist without order, following paths worn by centuries of foot traffic. Beyond the city walls, fields and villages dot the landscape, separated from the urban core by open land. The Thames defines the city's geography, spanned by only a handful of bridges. Westminster stands apart as the seat of power, while the docks cluster along the riverbanks, handling goods that arrive by water. The buildings are predominantly brick and timber, rarely rising above a few stories. This is a city built for a smaller age, its infrastructure designed for a population and economy that have already begun to outgrow their limits. Then the numbers begin to climb. London's population, just under 1 million at the century's start, doubles within decades. People arrive from the countryside, from Ireland, from across Britain, drawn by work that no longer exists in rural areas. The old boundaries cannot contain them. Neighborhoods spread outward, filling the fields that once separated town from country. Houses rise in terraced rows, packed tightly to accommodate the influx. The pressure intensifies on every resource the city possesses. Water supplies struggle to keep pace. Streets designed for horses and pedestrians now carry relentless commercial traffic. The infrastructure inherited from earlier centuries begins to crack under the weight of this new scale. London faces a choice: adapt or collapse under its own growth. The city responds by building. New roads cut through old districts, creating arteries that can handle the volume of movement required by commerce and industry. Bridges multiply across the Thames, linking neighborhoods that previously depended on ferries or long detours. Each new crossing shifts patterns of settlement and trade. The docks expand eastward. Massive enclosed basins carved out to handle ships arriving from every corner of the globe. Warehouses line these docks, storing goods that flow through London to markets across Britain and beyond. Roads are widened, straightened, paved with materials that can withstand constant use. The city's physical network extends outward and inward simultaneously, connecting distant suburbs while reorganizing the congested core. This is infrastructure as survival, each project answering an immediate need created by the city's own expansion. Then the railway arrives, and distance itself changes meaning. The first stations appear in the 1830s, terminals that bring the countryside within reach of the city centre. Lines radiate outward, connecting London to manufacturing towns, ports, and agricultural regions. But the railways do not stop at the city's edge. They push inward, tunneling beneath streets, vaulting over neighborhoods on brick arches, claiming land that forces entire districts to relocate. Stations become monuments in their own right, iron and glass structures that dwarf the buildings around them: Paddington, King's Cross, St. Pancras, each one a gateway that transforms its surrounding area. The railway compresses time. Journeys that once took days now take hours. Suburbs that were once too distant for daily commuting suddenly become accessible. London spreads farther than ever before, its boundaries no longer defined by how far a person can walk, but by how far the tracks extend. The architecture of this era serves function before form. Factories rise along the Thames and its tributaries, multi-story structures designed around the machinery they house. Their walls are brick, their windows large and regular, arranged to maximize light for the workers inside. Warehouses dominate the docklands, vast buildings with minimal ornamentation, their interiors organized for the storage and movement of goods. Iron becomes the material of the age. It supports roofs that span unprecedented widths. It frames windows that reach new heights. It allows builders to construct faster and stronger than stone or timber ever permitted. The aesthetic that emerges is one of repetition and utility. These buildings do not hide their purpose. They announce it through their scale and their stark efficiency. This is architecture in service of commerce, shaped by the demands of an industrial economy that values capacity and speed above all else. As the century progresses, London learns to push back the night. Gas lighting spreads through the streets, replacing oil lamps with a steadier, brighter glow. By mid-century, major thoroughfares shine with gas lamps placed at regular intervals, creating corridors of light that extend through the darkness. The effect transforms urban life. Streets that were once abandoned after sunset now carry traffic through the evening hours. Shops remain open longer. Theatres and public houses continue serving well into the night. The workday extends for those whose labour depends on artificial light. Factory floors illuminated by gas can operate in shifts that span the full 24 hours. London becomes a city that does not fully sleep, its activity continuing in waves that overlap and sustain each other. The darkness, once a natural boundary that governed human activity, becomes just another obstacle to be overcome through engineering. Beneath the streets, another transformation unfolds. For decades, London's waste flows through inadequate drains and open sewers, contaminating the Thames and spreading disease through neighbourhoods, regardless of wealth. Cholera outbreaks force the city to confront what it has long ignored. In the 1850s and 60s, a massive project begins, the construction of a comprehensive sewer system. Engineers design an underground network that intercepts waste before it reaches the river, channeling it through brick tunnels to treatment points downstream. The scale is extraordinary. Miles of sewers are built beneath existing streets, requiring coordination across jurisdictions that have never worked together before. Pumping stations rise along the Thames, practical buildings housing the machinery that keeps the system functioning. The work takes years. When complete, it fundamentally alters the city's relationship with its own waste. The Thames begins to recover. Disease rates fall. London gains infrastructure that will serve it for more than a century. All of this construction requires labour on a scale London has never mobilised before. Workers dig the tunnels, lay the tracks, raise the bridges. Their days begin before dawn and end after dark. They move between sites as projects finish and new ones begin, their routines dictated by the city's endless need for expansion. The work is dangerous. Tunnel collapses bury crews, falls from scaffolding kill men building structures that will bear other people's names. Yet the labour continues, drawn from the same population growth that drives the city's transformation. These workers live in the neighbourhoods that spring up to house them. Terraced streets built quickly and cheaply, close to the sites where their labour is needed. They are the human mechanism behind London's physical change. Their presence visible in every completed project, their individual stories absorbed into the larger narrative of urban transformation. Certain structures come to define this era of change. Tower Bridge, begun in the 1880s, combines engineering ambition with deliberate Gothic styling. A conscious effort to create something memorable rather than merely functional. The bridge lifts to allow ships to pass, its mechanisms concealed within towers that echo medieval fortifications. St Pancras Station, completed in 1868, pairs a vast train shed with a hotel designed in elaborate Victorian Gothic, transforming a purely practical building into an architectural statement. The Thames embankment reshapes the river's edge, creating new land while housing sewers and an underground railway beneath a public promenade. These projects are not simply infrastructure. They are declarations of London's capacity to reshape itself, to combine utility with ambition, to build structures that will represent the city long after their immediate purpose has been served. They become the landmarks by which future generations will understand this period of transformation. By the century's end, London stands as the center of the largest empire the world has seen. Goods from every continent flow through its docks. Financial institutions in the city manage investments that span the globe. The capital's growth reflects Britain's industrial and imperial reach. What happens in London influences economies and policies thousands of miles away. Other cities study London's innovations, copying its infrastructure and adapting its solutions to their own contexts. The railway systems, the sewer networks, the gas lighting, these become templates exported worldwide. London is not merely a British city, it functions as a global hub, a point where resources, people and ideas converge and redistribute. This status shapes every aspect of its development. The city builds not just for its own needs, but for the role it plays in a much larger system. The London that enters the 20th century bears little resemblance to the city that began the 1800s. Its population has grown sixfold. Its boundaries extend for miles beyond the old walls. Railways, sewers, gas lines and paved roads form networks that make the city function as a unified system rather than a collection of villages. The architecture that defines the Victorian era still stands throughout the city. Markers of an age when London rebuilt itself to meet demands no previous generation had faced. The solutions developed during these decades, mass transit, public sanitation, planned infrastructure, become fundamental to modern urban life, not just in London but in cities across the world. The 19th century leaves London transformed, its medieval past buried beneath layers of industrial innovation. The city that changed forever during those 100 years continues to evolve. But it does so on foundations laid when the air tasted of coal and iron, and the future was being built faster than anyone could fully comprehend.